Hello, welcome back. In this tutorial, we're just going to look at pickups and health. So let's start with a few things. So I've imported one or two assets, very simple ones. So I've got a model of a mine here. So I'm going to drag and drop that in, and we'll make that a wee bit smaller. A good bit smaller, there it is there. And we'll bring this towards the character. Maybe make it a bit bigger than that. Okay, a nice big kind of mine. And then under materials, I'm going to make a material, and I'm going to call it red to illness because it's going to be red, and I'm going to take that and put it on the mine. And then I'm going to bring in my health. So there's my health, and we'll bring it down, and we will make that, I don't know, 20 by 20 and by 20. I'll bring it this way here. Okay, so I've got my mine followed by my health. Okay, so I'm going to give the mine a tag. It's untagged at the moment, so I'm going to add a tag. And in Unity we can add whatever tags we want. So this is the mine. So we're going to call this mine. When we go back here, we can go tag it mine, and then we'll add one here, and you can call these whatever you want. We're going to call this health. And then we'll go back here to health. So we've tagged these two items, and that's how we're going to know what we're colliding with. So we have a non-player character control script, but we don't have really a player control script. So I'm going to create a new script, and we're going to call this player control. Now you'd normally, you might have a separate one of these for different levels, etc. So you might name it more specifically than what I'm doing here. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio, and hopefully it'll open up now for me. There we go, and there is our script. So we want to just put in our collision. Now before we do that, I'll come back to the script now. We want to go back to the first thing we're going to hit is our mine. So our mine has no collision, so we're going to add a collider to this. So we'll add just a simple box collider to it. So there's my box collider on the mine, and we're going to tick this here is trigger. So the character can collide with this, and the collision will be seen by Unity, and we can act upon that, but it has no physics. It's not going to push us backwards, or it's not going to in any way have a physical consequence in the game. It's not going to stop me or slow me down or speed me up or anything. So it has no physical interaction, but at the same time the collision is recognized, and we can have an event happen as a consequence of this trigger. Okay, so we've turned that on is trigger. So let's go back into our script now, and let's call upon our what we can do with that. So we're going to say so public void. Actually, we don't need to make it public, we'll say void. So void so on trigger, so on trigger enter, and then you can see it's completed it for me. So it said collider other. Now we can change the word other to anything we want, but we'll leave it there for now. So we're going to say if other dot game object dot tag. So we're looking for its tag, equals, and we need to put in 2 equals because it has to be absolutely equal to it, and we're going to type in mine. So if it has this, now we're going to open our curly brackets because we're going to do something. So now this is going to go on our player, so we need to give our player a health. So we're going to go up here and we're going to say so public float. Well, we could make it an integer for our health. So public integer health with a capital H equals, I know we'll say 1. Yeah, and we'll change this to be a float. And the logic behind that will hopefully make sense in a minute because we're going to use a slider. So public float health equals 1. So we're going to say so if I collide with the trigger, we want our health to, you know, be less than that. So we're going to say health minus equals 0.1. Well, 0.1 F. So we're going to remove from our health score this amount here, so 0.1. So we've gone down by 10%. So if our maximum is 1 and our, you know, we're going down in increments of 0.1. So let's just save that. Okay, so that's our first thing. So we've got a health and we've got a number that our health is. It doesn't actually, that could be 1,000 or 1,000,000. The player will never know what that number is. They'll just have a graphic that changes. And then we're saying if I bump into the mine, minus 1 off the health. Okay, or 0.1. So that's our first step on our journey. So now let's go back into Unity and we'll see if we get a compile error from our script. We don't. So what we want to do is make a head-up display that has a health bar on it. So I'm going to right click here, I'm going to go UI, and I want to make a slider. Now the slider has built into it a whole bunch of, you can see it here at the bottom, all sorts of handy parameters, but we're just going to skip past them for a minute and just set up the canvas. So the canvas, if I double click on it, is enormous, and it's where all of the UI elements are going to live. So we're going to call this so player UI, and then we want it to scale with the screen, and you can see when I do that it has jumped, and we're going to make it 1920 by 1080 because we're making a HD game, and now our slider has gone back into the correct position. Okay, so we're going to go to our slider now, and the slider is made up of a whole bunch of different bits. It's got a handle, a fill area, and a background. So first of all, I don't want it down there. I want it up there, my top left hand corner. It's got a slider on it that can slide backwards and forwards, which is pretty handy, and that's kind of what we want. The little circle at the end, I don't really want that. That's the handle there, so I'm just going to delete that. And then I've got a background. Now what I've done is I have imported a green health bar and a white health bar. I'll show you what I made here. These are super simple. So I've made basically a rectangle in Photoshop and have 2 layers. I'm not even saving it, I just saved them both out as JPEGs to put one on top of the other, so that way I know they're exactly the same size. So in the background I want to drop the white one. Now at the moment I can't drop it because this is a UI and this is a texture. So I need to tell it that it's a sprite so I can put it into my UI, and I need to do the same with this guy here. Make it a sprite and apply that. Now I can drag and drop them in. So it says background image, let's make it my white rectangle, and then my fill area, and my fill, it's got a UI sprite. Let's put my green health bar in there, and then when I go back to my slider here, when it's at 1 I've got all my health, and when I'm at 0 I have no health. Now at the moment it doesn't, there's a little white tip at the end of it, which is not great, but that's because if we look at the background, it starts at 0 and the fill area starts at 15, so we'll just set that to 0, and now we've got a slider that's going up and down, and I can make this bigger, so I can make this say 300 wide and I don't know 60 tall, so it's nice and big. Okay, so now we have a graphic. Now you can do all sorts of really nice things with this. You're saying you have to have a, yeah, so we can do all sorts of really nice things. We can have gradients, and it can change color from green to red and do all sorts of fancy things. But at the moment we just want to, when we collide, we want this to go down a little bit. So now we've made this, and when we press play, and it's not going to work now, but the UI doesn't move, so it's going to stay there all the time. So we need to do a couple little things. So I'm going to make a script next of all that goes on the mine. So let's do that, and we're going to call this mine control, and we'll double click on that. And can I get you in? There we go, mine control. So all we want to do here is we want to no, that's not what I want to do. Go back here. I want to go to my player, and my player is not tagged, so I'm going to tag the player excuse me. So now when the player hits the mine will disappear. So let's do that. So we've already put it in here, so we've got this set up to go. So I'm going to Control C and go into mine control and go Control V. So I'm going to go on trigger enter, collider other. So if something collides with me, if it has mine, so player actually, sorry, PLAYR. So if it's got the trigger player, then I want this to delete itself. So destroy, and then game object, which is itself. So we're saying if we bump into an object that has the tag player, delete yourself. Now there's only one small part of that that's wrong, and that's this bit here. So while the player, if we go in here, while the mine is a trigger, the player is not a trigger. So we can't say on trigger enter. If we do that, it won't work. So we'll delete that there, and we'll type in on collision. In fact, let's go back to the start here. So we're going to say void on collision enter, and then we need to type in so this one says collider, so then this one says collision. So collision other. Okay, and the rest of it stays the same. So like I said, so this one is an on trigger, but this one is on collision. So file and save, and we'll see if we get a compile error on that. Probably will we? Yes, no game show. So let's put this on mine control here. So let's drag and drop that here. So, and see if that works. So we're going to press play. Actually, let's escape from that for a second. Let's double click on the mine so we can zoom in. So if the mine's going to disappear, we'll see it disappear. So we press play. We move forward, and we have collision with the mine, but the mine has not disappeared. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need on trigger with that as well. So let's just do that. Oops. trigger enter. And let's press play. Oh, it's disappeared. Okay, so totally wrong. So once one of them is a trigger, you need to use on trigger. And you're probably going, I know, you're stupid, but that's okay. So that's the first thing we want to get done. So we want it to delete itself. And now the next thing we want is it to communicate here with the UI to go, you know, if this happens, then change the UI. So the conduit to the UI, so the thing that connects this mine and the UI element is the player. So we're going to put on the player the script that's going to change the UI. So at the moment is my player control script, and all we've put in is our health, and now what we need to do is connect these things together. So the first thing we need to do is, if we're going to use UI elements, we need to tell Unity we're going to do that. So using Unity Engine .ui. If we don't put that in, then we can't, you know, access the slider, or we can't use anything that is that has UI elements in it. Okay, so once we have that in, then we have very little more to do really. So we have to declare the slider as a variable. So we say public slider, because it's a slider, and we'll call it health slider. So if we hadn't put this in here, this wouldn't work. And then down here we've done most of our hard work already. We can put these in again because we will definitely need them in our player script. But so we've you know, we've put this in here to say, you know, if this number, if I collide with the mine, like -1 off this, so might as well stick this in beside it, that this will get smaller. So we're going to say health slider. So health slider dot value, because that's what was well, I can't spell value. That's what we were looking at in the inspector. And then what we wanted to equal, we wanted to equal the health. And health will be expressed as a number between 0 and 1. And if we go back to our Unity interface in here, and we go to the slider has a value between 0 and 1. So now what should happen is when we collide with this mine, our health should go down a little bit. Okay. And it didn't. So let's have a quick look at why it didn't. So at the moment it's got a value of 1. If we put in a value of 0.9, that's what it should have done. So I've got my slider to come down to a value of 0.9. Now what we'll probably find is that we haven't connected these things. So, or even more profoundly, we haven't put the script onto the player. So we need to put that here, and then we need to tell it what slider we're talking about. So that one. And then let's see if we can do that again. So we're going to move forward, and we can see that the mine has -1 off our health. So now, just to test our logic, let's duplicate this mine and move it here, and duplicate it again and move it here. And then when we play the game, we should be able to reduce our health not by 0.1 but by 0.3. And we can't do it a second time. We can't go back and hit the mines again because they have deleted themselves. So we can only ever hit them once. Now, if we didn't delete them, we could, you know, diminish or bring our score down to 0. Now, obviously in our player script, which is in here, we could have, you know, if health equals 0, then, you know, change scene, and, you know, we've lost the game. So so this works really well. So let's just, for, you know, to finish off this tutorial, we're going to go to our health, and this is going to be like a, you know, restore all health, okay. And so let's do that. Let's create a little script. So we're going to go health control. Okay, and we're going to double click on this. So this is our health control. Now in our mind control, it was very simple. We just put that in, and that's all we need in health control, really. In fact, we could put our mind control scripts on our health control, but let's just leave it at that for now. So when we collide with the player, with the object player, delete yourself. Now we may want to come back and put more things on health. It may make a different sound, for example, than when we pick up a mine, or the mine might explode and add in a particle system or something. So here is where we'll make the difference. So we're going to say on, you know, so on trigger enter collider other, and then we've said if it's got the tag mine. So let's just copy this bit here and duplicate it and replace mine with health. So if it's got so if it collides with the object with the tag health, then we want to set our health. Then we want to say health equals 1. Nope, and I can't do a double equals. That's why it's giving me a red line. So health equals 1. And again, we've got our slider, health slider dot value equals health, which will be 1. So we could actually remove that line, and we could just say health slider value equals 1. Okay, so now that's restoring our full health. We could add a plus equals and then add 0.1, but let's just restore all our health and see if that works. So we'll press play. We'll walk forward, and we've lost some health. We've lost a little bit more health and a little bit more, and now we've got our big green guy, and he didn't work at all. He didn't delete himself. Well, we didn't put the script on him. So where is he? Health. So he has the tag health, but we need to put our health control script on him. And we never added a collider, and that's why he wouldn't work. So physics, box collider, and then is trigger. So let's try it all over again. So here we go. So we lose some health, lose some more health, lose some more health, and we're fully healthy again. So that's how you do health bars and pickups. I'm just going to do one last thing before I finish, which is I'm going to just drop this guy towards the ground, and I'm going to add a small animation to him, so he's spinning around. So in my animation folder here, I'm going to try and add the animation in there. So I'm going to select my health guy here, and I'm going to go Window, Animation, Animation, and I'm going to create an animation for him, put it in the animation folder, and I'm going to call this health spin. And we've done animation before. There's all sorts of different ways to do animation. If you had sprites, you'd be dragging them in here, but I'm going to add a property, and the property I want to add is transform and rotation. So I want to remember this position here. So these are add keyframes, so I've added a keyframe here, and I've got my keyframe here, so I can zoom out. So let's just work on timing. So we'll say it's 4 seconds long. So we'll take this and bring it all the way to the end, and we'll remember that position again. And then here, actually we'll probably delete that one. Let's just delete that one so we can bring it all the way around. So after 1 second, we want to, let's look from the top, we want to rotate it -90, and we're going to keyframe that. After 2 seconds, I'm going to rotate it again to there, which is, hang on, let's do that. So we've gone from there to there, and we're just going to spin this by eye and keyframe that. Oops, not that one, that one. And then we're going to go on to 3 seconds. And keyframe that. And we've one more to do, which is to bring us to 4 seconds. And we'll take this one here and go Control C and Control V. So we're back where we started. Oh, and that one's spun all the way around. So let's not do that. So let's go to 4 seconds and spin us that way. Okay, and we'll keyframe that. So this is just going to spin. Now, when I've made the animation, so I can close this window now. So up here, I've got not just this, so I've got the health spin here. So this object here has no animation controller. So we need to drag that in there. But when I double click on health here, I just want you to see that it's got its default spin on it. It's got its default animation. And then when I look at the default animation here, it's got loop time turned on, so it will loop. So let's just go back to the scene here and select health, and we will press play, and we will lose this, and you can see there's my health spinning, as you would expect to see in most games. Now there's a little pause there. I could make that better. I could go into the graph editor and make that better. But my health is restored and I am ready to fight the troll. Okay, we'll leave it there for now.